morning, good afternoon, good evening, FMA nation of the world, wherever you are right now. I'm Marya Dela Torre from the Philippines, and welcome to the fourth episode of This Side of the Blade, brought to you by FMA Connects. This Side of the Blade is a video podcast dedicated to Filipino martial arts from a women's perspective. This side of the blade is a resource for inspiration, guidance, and connection for its viewers. We're here to offer a platform for discussions that resonate with the men and women of the FMA nation of the world. We believe that together we can forge a community that celebrates the strength and indomitable spirit of men and women of Filipino martial arts. Well, I hope you enjoyed the content on our previous episodes. We got some wonderful insights from some of our strongest and sweetest couples in FMA. If you haven't seen that, please check out our previous episode on our Facebook page. Now, let's talk about today's episode. So we are going to talk about some rather serious stuff today. And we have some exciting guests on our show. Let me introduce to you our kuyas for today. Lamont is the head instructor and owner at Blackbird Training Group. He practices Pikita Tir Shakali and he's the head instructor for 15 years now. Hi Lamont, say hello.
Hi, I'm from Kennewick, Washington. It's sort of my home base these days, and it's great to be on the show.
Thank you so much. Let's give him some shout outs in our comment section. Now, our next guest is Royce Ramos. He's the head instructor and owner of Nomad Kali and Fitness. He's been practicing Kali for 25 years and a head instructor for 13 years now.
Hello, everybody, and good evening from where I'm at. Good morning, good afternoon, and thank you for having me. I hope I can help contribute to something that you all will find of value.
We are happy to have you, Kuya. All right, now, last but definitely not the least, Paul McCarthy, the head instructor and founder of Cognitive Kali. He's been an instructor there for 13 years now. Say hello and tell us where you're from.
Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm from London. That might be obvious from the accent. I live in Los Angeles, but I'm currently in the basement of a cabin in the middle of the woods in Maine. So all over the place. So happy to be here. So happy we're doing this.
We're happy to have you too. Okay, let's give him some hearts and smiles and shout outs on our comment section. All right. So, are you ready? Let's get this interview rolling. In Filipino martial arts, what is the value of ranking and promotion? And how does it contribute to a student's growth and development within the art?
I think if you look kind of in most martial arts, not just Filipino martial, I think you looked in whatever the olden days is, you never had these stair steps of these student ranks. We didn't have 6 student ranks, right? You're either good enough to be a teacher or you were still learning, or obviously you're in a pathway. I think, and so these days, most systems, the PTTA, the association I'm associated with, has 6 student ranks, right? As you move up the ranks, and then you start running into your instructor ranks. Coming up from a system that uses, I started in Kempo karate, well-organized belt system, and that really helped me learning, what do I need to know for the next rank? And they had it really well defined about, I need this, and then I need this, and then I need this. And it really set your goals. It's like, okay, this is where I have to go. This is where I have to go. I can look at my senior students. What is X, Y, and Z technique? Okay, there's my progression. I think over time, at least in the Filipino martial art Pikiti that I'm associated with, that was never clarified from the head instructor, and every senior student has since tried to organize it. I think GT taught it as a whole, and every student is like, now how am I going to organize this? How am I going to pass this on? And so you see all these variations between different instructors about here's these, this is a beginner rank, this is an intermediate rank, this is an advanced rank, this is an instructor. And that may be a very Western curriculum, organized grade level, this is how you learn stuff. But I think it helps, especially if you started as a Westerner in that kind of system. It kind of makes sense. So to me, that's the value of it. You know what the goals are, you know where the next step is, and it isn't a giant mystery about when do I become good enough, or what do I have to do to get there.
I see. All right. Thank you. Thank you for that insight, Lamont. Now, what about you, Royce? Do you think ranking and promotions contribute to a student's growth?
So I'm in the like mind of Lamont. I started in traditional martial arts as well. I started in Taekwondo, and then when I started in Pikiri, you know, after a few years, my teacher said, "Here's your rank," kind of thing, and then it's been kind of like that ever since. Oh, by the way, here we go. Here's your next rank. I'm like, okay. So I I believe the same as Lamont. That is more westernized in the concept of organizing the material in a structured way versus the more traditionally organic way that whatever went at the whims of whoever taught us. Because anyone who's ever done FMA for a month at least knows it can be very chaotic. So when because what happened most of the times we're backdoor garage art kind of thing in training in the park. You have to wait a whole week to get to the weekend because everybody's working Monday through Friday to get 2 to 3 hours to train with each other and then hopefully practice throughout the week and can continue on or rehash. And sometimes it's the next following week. It's raining 2 weeks later. Oh, here we go. And we didn't go over this last time. Don't worry about it. So having the organization and the ranking is ideal, especially if you create a good structure to make sure that the fundamentals are conveyed accordingly. So everybody can say, here we go. This is what I'm learning. And like Lamont said, that's the next thing we need to know. I want to learn advanced knife tapping techniques. Well, you just started 2 days ago. Well, I want to learn that. Well, you have to be at this level to know this. Okay, so what do I have to know to get there? This, and that. Okay, let's start getting you up in those levels. Some people, yes, can progress quicker. Some people should not.
And I understand what you're saying about the garage thing. I've experienced that. If it's raining, there's no training. All right. Okay. What about you, Paul?
Absolutely, yeah. Westernized education systems are built like that and are constantly developing because of what we learn about child development, how our brains develop, how we learn. These are good stepping stones, science says it's good for growth and development. There's also the other side of it. It's good for your school. It's good for retention. If you're an instructor on the floor, you see what levels you've got. We all make a lesson plan, right? And we throw it away 5 minutes into the class because something goes wrong. But having that going, oh wow, I've got a class full of black belts today. I can go, or full of yellow belts. Okay, we're gonna work on angle 1, right? So there's those benefits as well, and that because when a teacher can see that, they can help their students more, and there's the students' growth from that as well. But from what Royce and Lamont said, I really wanted to kind of I came up through a Hapkido system, belt sheets. This is what you've got to do. Score this, and you get the belt. And absolutely, it's great. And I get to the Inosanto Academy, and Guru hands you your belt when he thinks you're ready, and you don't know. And I think that's fantastic. Sometimes you see someone being called up to demo, and they have to sombrado or do the drill with everyone, and you get all excited because you're like, oh, they're getting looked at. They might get a belt, and it's really exciting. And sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it kind of taps you on the shoulder. You turn around, and there's your next rank. Just while you're training, and I like that. I like I like both. So that's what I do. I do a mix of both when I promote people through. But also, the really important piece is how was it done in the past? We should cherish our past. We should keep our traditions. So
Right.
yes, possibly the Western way, which is based in science, is good. That doesn't mean we forget about the history and the culture that where these arts come from. I think there is room and there is a way to incorporate both, so we get the best of both worlds. I think that and I don't have that answer. I just think it exists out there.
Yeah. Okay. I understand where all of you is coming from when it comes to creating a structure and organization. I'm curious though, does it like you get students shy away from the organization because it has become structured? Has that happened? No,
Nope.
no, no. Like, okay, no.
I've got a I've got a
No.
client that I'm getting ready to give him a rank, and we don't train for ranks too much. He trains for other different reasons, but he's asked a few questions. So I'm like, you know what, I'm going to do this. And he just cannot remember any of the names. He just is useless. If I say, let's do sombrada, you can see the cogs turning. When he does it, he's great. He knows how to do it. He just can't connect the name. And I think it's really important that, especially children, they might not have that piece. Does that mean they don't get the rank? They can do it, but they can't remember the name. Or they're really good at remembering the name and the culture, or they're very good at the aesthetic, or they're really good at sparring. There's so many different elements. So I think there's a lot of fluidity there where, you know what, if they're not good at doing it that specific way, can we test them another way? We get that there's value in that.
Okay. Okay. Now let's talk about the student side of things. Based on your observation, how does pursuing higher rank in Filipino martial arts contribute to a student's commitment and dedication to their training? Does it impact their overall development as martial artists, these rankings?
So I'm part of the PTTA as well as the PTKWF, right? So I'm with both Tuan Mel and Tuan Jared. Before met and found them, as I was developing what we knew and developing my ranking structure, and I had the ranking listings from back in I think 2012, but not what is required of them. And I'm trying to go based off the information that I remembered from my instructors back in the day, and you know, what did what did we do to get to this level? What did we do to get to that level? And over time, of course, I've adjusted it. I've made also certain concessions in regards to that training because I found due to modern day science and now applying some of that information to make it better and easier to understand. So I have a guideline of materials like everybody does. Actually, a checklist now, so it makes life a little easier, right? And as they go and they know what they need to achieve the next rank. So they make sure that, okay, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I make sure that's all available to all my students. There's no secretness or hiding this or hiding that. And I do assessments twice a year. So it's every 6 months, June and December, you test. And, I already have known what you know by the time you get to that level. We're just doing that one final assessment and additional sparring. And if you're like going into a lock-on level, like one of my students just got hit at lock-on Isa level last night, um, and we went a good he went a good 14 rounds against everybody live stick. So, so you put the work and effort into it, and he's been sparring and training religiously for the past however many how long he's been doing it. So he's earned his stripes, so to say. Albeit they are on his arms and whatnot, but he did earn them. And, you know, again, I don't hold it back. I want them, so it helps know what they need to know to achieve the next rank. But I'll say this, I don't know if anyone else does this, but I kind of have, maybe it's a little overbuilt, the structure, but I felt it's fair that stuff that can be done within a certain time frame based on how many classes, how much time people put in. And it's totally achievable. And some people achieve that. Some people it takes a little bit longer. It's not that big of a deal. So that way, my checklist has a number of items, but I'm not ranking on all of them. I'm actually ranking on certain ones, right? A certain number of stuff. Because sometimes you have people who train, they go to seminars to get additional training and everything. I'm not going to be like, well, they missed this chapter in the class and didn't get this one, but he learned something from that's going to be given 2 years from now, I'm not going to sandbag the guy or girl. It's they're learning, they're earning. So I recognize and give them the rank, and they know this, so they know they keep moving forward. That's
I
how I do it.
okay. I like that. Like there's an existing set of curriculums that they know that's gonna happen. Okay, this is what's gonna happen next. So they know what they need to achieve. All right. How what about you, Paul? I know that you mentioned earlier that you tailor the ranking based on what your students' experience is or what your experience with students. But based on what your observation, does ranking have an impact on your students' development?
Yeah, absolutely. My system that I teach predominantly the cognitive Kali is it's different than a lot. And to be honest, I'm actually surprised I've not received a lot of blowback from the Kali community because I don't do it as a self defense or a tactical or a combative art. I'm doing it to improve health. But I'm really honored that people seem to think that that's a good idea. Although when you see some of the drills that I do, they really are like that. This is not going to work in self defense. But I think I've been good at communicating. This is what it's for, and I think that's where some of the problem is when you say you're doing something that's tactical or combative, and it's not. Then there's some. But for my students, I just spoke to one of my clients who had to move into care recently. He has Parkinson's, and so some of the stuff you see me do with him wouldn't even look like Kali, but I pulled it from Kali. I pulled the idea or the movement. He's doing it sitting down. He's tapping his feet instead of doing footwork. So it's the concepts that I've pulled from it. So we absolutely, for my clients who do have these kind of like neurological disorders and things like that, it's essential for their growth. I think more in the martial arts world, in the training for the combat, because Kali is a combat art from the battlefield. Um, it's it's important because um, there's there's a little bit of pressure there. So we talk
Mm-hmm.
the pressure testing is what we do, and I think Royce was talking about some live stick sparring for the rank. That's kind of not what
Yep.
I'm talking about. I'm talking about being a little bit anxious because you're doing a test, like much less than real pressure testing. But actually, the chemicals released are similar. So it's not putting you through the pressure test, but you are anxious, and that does help you grow, and it's going to help you when you have to do the real stuff. It's just like I'm sure the live stick sparring that Royce did, what it was done in a safe manner, right? It was done in a manner where not too many injuries were going to happen. And that's going to prepare you much better for in the street if something does happen where it is true violence. And so you have those regulated steps. And there is a lot of science to back that up, is that when your brain is in that higher learning state because there is risk involved, it
Mm-hmm.
actually learns better, performs better, and we can get better. And that's essential for student growth.
Okay. There's that adrenaline rush. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's cortisol, it's epinephrine, yeah, everything else.
What is your experience on your end, Kuya? Lamont?
So as much as I've said, the importance of a curriculum, I actually don't award any rank under Lakanguro in my classes. I have a curriculum. Everybody can see the curriculum. I teach off the curriculum, and the first rank I award is Lakanguro. You're either a student or you're an instructor. I will let the people know, like when I start seeing, like, we typically, I just sort of keep an internal 3 years minimum before unless someone's really special, and I don't think I violated that really special rule yet. But is if you've come in and you just to learn the system enough to be able to teach it, it takes about 3 years. Like just internalizing it, turning it around, and then be able to do it. 3 years is a good rule of thumb. I will let someone know that I'm like, if you keep it up the way you are, next summer, I'd like to, put you up for, an instructorship. But let's make sure you've got everything. And then we'll go through the curriculum, make sure all the parts are covered. And then that person's teaching it and understanding it throughout the curriculum. I do not use, like I said, I don't award Yakan Dalawa to a student. The only time I do that is if they move away. Like if they're going to move somewhere else And I'm like, okay, well, okay, you're gonna go do PTK with somebody else. Here's my rank for you. Grade voyage. But if you're my student, again, I just started Lock and Guru. I think that the gradations are generally pretty fine. Like there isn't, and I don't have a massive amount of material in there. And even cross blocked with the PTA curriculum, it's not a massive amount of material. So I don't have a problem with teaching that. And it lets me as an instructor, because I will teach sometimes horizontally across, like here's a gunting with single stick, here's a gunting with double knives, here's or I can run it vertically where like we're focusing on knife for the next month and a half, 2 months. And we just run, vertically through the curriculum. And I might be teaching advanced material, to a relative newbie, in short order, but with a focus on it over time. So it lets me play within the curriculum, without being like, oh, you're Yakandalawa. Let's focus on double stick right now. So that's, I kind of run a hybrid there. And again, it's organized. People know what they need, and they may approach me like, hey, I was working on this with John. I don't remember what this is. Can we go over that? And we will. Like there's always opportunity to pursue the material, not just in the group class.
Okay, so let's talk about we all know that it's important to have that ranking. It's important for the growth of the students too. But let's talk about your criteria. How? Why are they being promoted? So what criteria and standard do you consider when evaluating students for promotion in Filipino martial arts? Also, how do you ensure you are fair and objective in the assessment process? So let's start with you, Paul.
Oh, you're gonna start with me. This is the one I made most notes on, and that's two really huge questions that you
Okay.
sneakily put into one there. So I'm going to talk about the fair and objective. And so I work predominantly in academia. My full-time job is with UCLA martial arts program, and I teach with UCLA as well. And I teach a class in a certification program, a personal training certification course. And in most of other industries, the body or the organization that provides the knowledge is actually separate and neutral from the organization that provides the certification. That's typically how it's done in most industries, and that's how because of conflict of interest and bias, and that's how we keep it there. We don't do that a lot in martial arts. I'm the teacher. I'm giving you knowledge, and I'm going to tell you when you're ready. But I found a way with some clients that I used to have. I don't train them anymore. I used to train. My niche in Los Angeles for a while was millionaire policemen. I don't know how that happened. They obviously weren't millionaires because they were policemen. I think they got bored and wanted to do some fun things with that. But they wanted to get tested, and I had this idea in my head. So I was like, okay. And I told, Guru Karma Kamen, who used to train at the Insano Academy, one of my instructors, exceptional practitioner. I said, can you come and test my client? And he hadn't been training him. He didn't know. I gave him a broad idea of what we'd covered, and he came and tested him, and he gave me ideas. So, but I kept it. It was a hybrid again. I didn't let Guru Comrade give him the rank or tell him how he did. I had Guru
Mhm.
Comrade assess him, and then we had a discussion, and then I added that to what I already knew because I'd been training the client. So I've done that a few times, and I think that keep getting that objectivity is good. And if you've got a bigger school, you're going to have other instructors and that kind of stuff, and you can potentially do that model as well. The criteria thing is man, it's going to be, we could talk for days on this. And what what I do in academia, we create rubrics. And it's, if you want to get to this level, you must do these things, this level, these things, and this level. And it's a big thing. And it's actually a pain in the butt to actually create, but it is very helpful. So I was thinking, for me, just top of my head, I've only got a flashlight pen in my hand, but an angle one criteria is it's got to be that 45 degree. My hand crosses the center line before the tip of the stick. I keep 90 degrees between the stick and my forearm because we're thinking blade, and I don't want to have a loose structure. Ability to do it retracting and to do it swing through. What is my check hand doing, whether it's the bicep or whether it's active? And if I was going to create a rubric, I got to write all of that down. And then when you assess someone, you got to check. Royce said check boxes. You got to go, okay, boom, they're holding it. Do they have the amount of punyo that you want them to have? Because every system's different, right? Do they have that? All these things. Check, 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 check. Boom, you've passed that skill on to the next skill. And so it creates a lot of work. And I don't do that for everything, right? I eyeball a lot of stuff and go, right, they've got it. And I think as we become better instructors, the student, new student walks onto the mat, swings the stick for 2 minutes, and you kind of know where they are, right? Whether they've trained before, what their problems are, things like that. And that goes back to that more qualitative that comes from the old school of looking at people and things like that. So that's my short answer. We could talk about this for days, though.
I can imagine. Wow. It's really tedious to do a checklist, but I think it's important too. That's
Yeah,
really
yeah, I
important.
think it's good.
Do you do this like the criteria and like checking and grading your students? Does it happen just on the day of testing, or you do this beforehand? Like while during training you're already like sort of grading them too.
Yeah, when I teach academically, you have to have this ready and presented to the students before the course starts. They need to see exactly what they're being graded on. Otherwise, it's like it's a requirement for me as an instructor to do that. And that's why I don't do it for the martial arts, because I spent too long doing it for my PT class. So I think there's value in that. There's value in that concept. But yeah, if you're seeing this person regularly, you're doing the mental check boxes. They got that, you got that. And it's funny. I was going to bring this up when you talked about the guru. I was a brown belt with Guru Dan for a long time, and again, no, there's no curriculum, no thing, doesn't. And when he talks to the class, sometimes he kind of makes eye contact with you and then talks to the rest of the class. And I remember him kind of going, and he'd given some ranks out, and he said, I'm just waiting for one more thing. And he locked eyes with me when he said one more thing. And next belt is black. And he just moved on. And I'm like, tell me the thing. What is it? What do I need to do? I didn't get my black belt for another couple of years, I think. Clearly, I wasn't doing it very well. But again, if that's what it is, if that's how you've got to earn it. It's not. I'm not going to tell you exactly what you need to do. You need to pay attention. You need to watch your seniors. You need to keep coming, because that one thing I might teach on one day and not teach it for another month. And if you weren't there, you weren't there. You got to earn it. You got to do the work.
Mm. That's very old Filipino. I'm not going to tell you what you're missing. You have to observe. All right. How about you, Lamont?
So criteria again, I because I only promote to Lakanguro, which is that instructor ranking, right? I expect technical, skill, right? That you can't be an instructor without being able to demonstrate the skill capably. I expect to have knowledge of the curriculum, and I expect you to be able to execute the curriculum. I expect you to be able to, at some level, fight the curriculum, right? So those are kind of my, you know it, you can teach it. At a beginning level, I don't expect a Lakanguro to be a good teacher at that point, but they are begun that process of learning how to teach. So they will, hey, teach 5 attacks. They'll have done this in my class. Teach 5 attacks. Warm up with 5 attacks. Warm up with basic footwork. That they're getting used to that apprenticeship and teaching as they move forward. So, but that's high level. But that's sort of my expectations. And then kind of what Paul was saying. I don't actually promote them. I mean, I put them up for it. My peers at the PTTA are the people who will do their evaluation. I don't do that. I put them up, and that's why I give them that warning. I'm like, hey, next summer you're going to Salt Lake, kind of thing, is that they know in August I've got that there's a bullseye on their screen. They know that's when they're testing. They've got X amount of months to prep for that. So, there's no reason they shouldn't be ready. I don't jump this on them. They, and if I've never had someone say, hey, I'm not going to go because I don't think I'm ready. But it's one of those things where it does put that stress, and and they're not testing in front of someone they know, right? These guys are relative strangers. They might have seen him before, but I don't know what he's looking for. I don't, and one of the other instructors might have other takes on it than I do. And so they may give them different critiques than I would on the material. So for me, that's a really valuable check on, my skill set and as an instructor, because we don't all look for the same things, even though we're teaching the same art. And other people may have different criticisms than I would if I was the only person evaluating them.
Royce, your criteria and standards, and how do you ensure it's fair?
What I look for, I obviously we want to look at um, their discipline, their determination, the willingness their inquisitiveness, they're willing to learn, to dig deep, to ask questions. God, it's like getting them to ask questions like pulling teeth. It's like, come on, give me something. God damn it. Excuse my language. But, I want them to have self-analysis and self-awareness on who they are, what they're learning, so they could dive deeper in of themselves. I even tell them, okay, and with the questions, once they get to a certain level, I say, okay, now before you ask your question, ask yourself the question. And then try to answer it with what I gave you. And then if you can't figure it out then let's ask it. And there's a time where I'm at, oh, that's a great question. Okay, let's see what happens when we do it. Okay, this is good. Oh, no, I got stabbed. Not a good idea. We let's put it into the lab and see what works. And this helps them develop and learn more and figure things out. And, well, this is what I could do with this and I could do with that. Now, it's like just, Legos meets origami.
Wow.
Get them. Yes, I want them to look at everything and understand that there is an education, there is a development, there is trying to link that right and left hemispheres of the brain and create those neural pathways to develop further. There is all these aspects that I'm looking for, but in my own way. In each person is a little bit different. Like I said, whoever is moving up, I kind of know where I want them to be at. Right. And I kind of want them to be ahead of the game. So if they're not where I think they should be, I push them a little bit more. Right. In terms of grading, I assess everybody on a daily basis. Every day is an assessment. Oh, another key thing, sparring. So you got to spar. None of this ranking without sparring. I'm sorry. No. If I had to spar to get my rank, guess what? Everybody's sparring. I don't care who you are. Paul talked about pressure. Pressure could turn you to dust or make diamonds. Which would you rather be, dust or diamonds?
Okay. Diamonds forever.
Diamonds are forever, forever, forever. Diamonds are forever, 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 forever. And ever.
How can instructors support women in gaining ranks and becoming future contributors and leaders in FMA?
So, I mean, I hate to be trite about it, but I like to think I treat my students the same. I don't want to say that I offer more support to a woman than I do to a guy. Like, I ask the same thing of my women students as I do to my male students. It's not, you're not a delicate flower. You're someone who's learning how to do a fighting art. Like, and that may come with certain challenges for everybody. And everybody's got their own challenges. But as much as possible, I think I try to treat them the same. And I hope that comes across as that mark of respect that it is, right? I'm not going to treat you differently. Being a woman is not it's not a handicap. It's not something you have to work around. It's just something, they're inherent things. Some women are smaller than men. Some women aren't. Some men are smaller than women. Like those are, so hopefully I will, I'm going to tailor my training. That doesn't mean I have to tailor it very much, if at all, because of your gender.
Right. I like that. Treat women with respect by treating them the same.
Everybody has equal opportunity. Everybody has the ranking and requirements and the necessity. With my former student Melanie, I didn't treat her any differently. If anything, I didn't give her anything special. She took what I gave her and made it hers and made it work. The biggest problem we all have here as instructors, whether male or female, is finding females. And some people literally, finding someone who wants to learn and do and train. And again, it is a very, 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 very small percentage of people who are willing to put forth that effort. The biggest barriers you find are like being with men, accidental touching, and hoping is not intentional touching. We all hate the saying, but you got to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. So what do you
Yeah.
do? So you have to get them out. That's the biggest barrier. The biggest barrier for women is is themselves. They pigeonhole themselves into a belief that doesn't make sense. Oh, martial arts is only for men. They literally talk themselves out of something good.
Same with me. I would feel the same way. I would, in the beginning, have like pros and cons and a lot of stuff that I need to think through before I say yes. Not just for Kali, not just for FMA, for every decision that I make. There's like a pros and cons and a whole lot of lists that I need to make decisions of. So I think that's something that you guys also need to consider when talking to women and
Oh,
inviting them. Yeah.
that's something that's always considered. And I'm
Mhm.
pretty sure Lamont and Paul are in the same boat as myself. I've been doing this for some time. We take
Mhm.
those things into consideration. They, you have to kind of like fish and kind of pull them in,
Cool.
find them and pull them in.
Okay.
I actually,
Okay.
that's one of the most difficulties. Otherwise, if you don't have that, all that encouragement to move up means nothing.
I think the most important thing is that, if you have a standard, it's a standard for everyone. If it's a different standard for females and males, different genders, it's actually illegal in many cases to do that. That's called discrimination, right? So, yes, absolutely, we have to do that. And I'm really glad about what Royce said at the end there, because that's where I was going to go. I was going to look at it from a different lens, more macro lenses. Why don't we have as many women in martial arts as men? It is a very male-dominated industry. And there's some negative sides of that. A woman going into a school that's full of men, and maybe there's a little misogyny there, there's a little sexism. It's just not pleasant. Why would they want to be there? And I think that's a very small percentage of the wonderful people in the martial arts community, but it does give a black mark, and that could be a reason. Then you've got cultural stigmas on the role of the woman in the household or whatever they're supposed to be doing. We're getting away from that and quicker each generation, but it's still there. And so
Mhm.
that disparity is what we've been trying to work on. That's what I try and work on with my role at UCLA, because
Mhm.
those four letters, we have a little bit of influence. We're a well-established institution, and I like to try and use that. So we actively, whenever I do social media, website, marketing, I've got my go-to strong female pictures, happy female pictures, and that's what I use, because there's a disparity, and I'm just going to put them in. And I also have some great photos of my wheelchair athletes, athletes with limbs missing, because there's a disparity of individuals with disabilities from training as well. So I think, let's get them out there, talking about those people that are out there. So Diana Lee and Asanto, working with the Mandalorian, and Lauren Mary Kim doing the stunts, and Katie O'Brien doing some really strong stuff out there. There's women and girls now coming through that are seeing that now, and they'll be like, I want to do that. Whereas the previous generation, they wouldn't see that. 10, 20 years ago, you wouldn't see a strong female lead in a movie or a TV show. So I think that's really important to do, is that, yes, there's a disparity. What can we do to do that? And I try and do that with my instructors as well. My women instructors, I try to kind of like help them, not just internally at UCLA. I'm their boss and they have roles with me, but if there's something going on, an extra conference or training, or I think you'd be good at this, I try to do that as well, because when you find the ones that are interested in it, you got to hold on to them and make them better and things like that, because they're diamonds in the rough.
Mhm. Okay, so I'm glad that you mentioned that. You're right. That's the reality. To be honest, there's not a lot of women that are practicing Philippine martial arts, and we're all. Well, we really hope that FMA Connects, this side of the blade, would put that information out there. And hey, we're welcome. Women are welcome in this community too. Um, but having said that, I would like to like dig in a little bit on the training for women. Are there any specific strategies or approaches that have been proven effective in promoting and empowering women within your community?
I think the number one thing that I've had to learn, and I'm constantly learning, is that I'm not going to know that answer. So I'd better listen really well when a female practitioner comes to my school, or an instructor has some feedback of how we do policies and things like that. I just got to listen really well, because I don't know the answer. I could think I know the answer. I could try a bunch of stuff, and I could get a lot of women more women practitioners into the program, and that's a metric we can go by. Like, I'm going to do this. What's the result? No change. Well, I'll try something else. What's the result? Loads more female practitioners. Well, apparently that works, but I think really listening, and that's why I really love this group, this FMA Connects, and getting this going, because it's kind of the portal for doing that. I follow your page. I'm like, what do they want? What are they saying? What are they doing? Is it different than what we're doing? And how can we help that? And so, yeah, that's the number one thing I think I need to be a lot better at, is listening to women, because they're the ones that know what they need.
Hmm. I like it because sometimes people just forget, and this is not just for women, for men and women in general. Sometimes the owners, the teachers forget to listen. We also have our needs, and if we are afraid to communicate it, then there won't be you won't be able to get me to go back to you all the time, because well, you're not listening. I have my opinions too, and I have my needs too, and I want to learn more, and this is my process of learning. It could be different from your process of teaching, so let's have that communication. Definitely.
Well, yeah. So, but that's also another aspect is compatibility, and sometimes that's another issue, because sometimes and that's also why I try to push the people to try it first. Sometimes people are receptive, and then that means they're compatible.
And you have done that before, like, okay, I don't think we're compatible, let's transfer you to a different instructor.
Oh yeah, I've even made recommendations to other instructors.
Are there any success stories or examples that you can share of women who have excelled in Filipino martial arts and achieved high ranks or become influential figures within your community?
The single best promoter for women in martial arts is women already in your martial arts class, women teaching your martial arts class. In Philadelphia, Jenna out there is doing wonderful things. In terms of
Yeah.
instructor ranking, she's a relatively new instructor, but look at the following she's created. Even with that, and I'm 1,000, 2,000 miles away, and I can see it. Right? I mean, it's such a
Mm-hmm.
brilliant example, and and so, because with women becoming to having these platforms and appealing to audiences in some ways as guys we can't, and again having like, oh, I want to do what she does. Again, I had two women come into my class and they watched Lindsay at 100 pounds just bulldogging a guy. Like, they're like, I want to do that. Like, and that's what we need. And hopefully, with the right, it's not even the right recruitment, we get these people up and into the system and being able to promote themselves. I think I look forward to it.
It's on my community, but I got a couple of stories because they influence me so much, and they're historical stuff. And I'm going to put a disclaimer out there. These are stories told in academies that I am recalling with my memory. And so when you get the comment, that was nonsense, he got the name wrong and all that, then probably I did. But the story matters. So the first one is Guru Dan tells a story of one of his instructors was, I believe, Regino Elustrissimo, or it might have been Antonio Tatang, and Regino was the wife. This is where I'm a little bit confused. But he said that he was taught by the wife, the woman, sometimes, and it would be when she would come over to gossip with Guru's mother. So they'd be in the kitchen, and Mrs. Illustrissimo would just be like whacking Guru's hand and just talking over here. And oh, you know what she said last time? Oh, you can't believe what she did. And Guru's getting whacked everywhere because she was so good. And Guru tells the story a lot better, and but the impression on me was there is that the women have trained for a while and they know how to do it, but maybe have not got the recognition. And that comes to Guru Dan, the impression possibly of that. But Guru Dan, a long time ago, promoted his wife to be an instructor, and Sima Paula, at a time when that just wasn't done. And I've heard that there was a lot of kickback on that. And I think Guru, in my time, my very short time with him, in the decades of him teaching, I've seen him consistently push his female practitioners, make them demo more, bring them up, hold them up. And when someone like that does that, it means a lot. And so those are two very impactful things on my training and my impression of that. I mentioned the names before. Obviously, Guru's daughter, Diana Santo, is doing some wonderful things. Katie O'Brien used to work for me, and then now she's too famous to work for me because she's in the movies, but she's doing some great stuff. And she's very, she trains hard. She used to be a bodybuilder, so she looks the part too. And that's a big difference that you see. Lauren Mary Kim, follow her Instagram because she posts all the stunts she does. She shows you the wire work and then gives you the video of the movie. So it's a really cool comparison. And I think these people are, like I said before, what young girls can look up to and go, wow, that looks really cool. I want to do that. And I'm saying, whatever it is, that's another way to do it. And there's a lot more, like the movie that came out, Raya and the Last Dragon. It was a female lead, and she pulls the stick. There's a lot of blending of arts in there, and that's what we do. That's what happens in the movies. But you know what? It's the first time I've seen actual sticks pulled out like that. I watch movies every now and then, and you see, you're like, wait, that's a little bit of Heaven 6 in there, and you do that, but they don't credit it. They don't put the culture behind it. It's appropriated almost. It's like, I think Carly's everywhere. Guru Jeff Amada and Damon Caro, these people are, and now with John Wick and Chad Stahelski, David Leitch, it's in there, but it's not being recognized for what it is. And that's a whole nother subject. But those are the names of people that are doing stuff. Janet Todd and Jackie Buntan in the martial arts, not necessarily Filipino martial arts, but they're the one championships in Muay Thai. And so I think that, everywhere this is making females look stronger. They can do it with grace and power. Like Lamont was saying, I think he said bulldogging. I'm not sure what that is, but I've got a good idea. So you see those things, and I think that's going to help.
The imagery. Okay, I like it. I think a great example would be my mom. She has she knows how to angle one with her chinelas. I'm just kidding. She's really good at that. It's taught in our home. Angle ones with chinelas. Okay, Royce. To you, have you had experience with share us some experience of women who have excelled in FMA?
All right. So, like I said, I had my student Melanie, and I still have high hope for her. I'm hoping that she will continue where she's at. I, even gave her authorization to start a group. And La Guru Rachel is awesome. She's my height, but slimmer. Obviously, me, got to work on something. But but she works with them. She's smooth. She studies. She trains. She works hard. She did a lot of things, and she goes to the seminars. She's religious. She hardly misses seminars with Tuan Mel, with Trish Clements from wife of Wesley Clements down in Virginia. She's been training in Santo stuff as well, but she's also been training in Pikiti a lot, and they've been training together for a long time. And their group, of course, acknowledges her. Obviously, Tuan Arlene. We know of Tuan Arlene, and she's doing her thing, right? There are good people out there. The way I look at it is that if you're a part of a group, you have a certain responsibility. It's only fair because the people who put time into we're not asking much. Let's do a video with us. Do this, do that. Let's put something out. Is it too much to ask for? If it is, then okay, let us know. Don't dodge the question. Say, oh, I don't want to do it. All right, fine. What? We're gonna have. Is it right if I ask you to do something else for us that doesn't require that? Okay, fine. This is what we want. Again, it's just only fair. We're all working together to make something happen, and
Right. I think that solves what Paul said earlier. There's a lot of women out there, but they aren't recognized. And what you said, Royce, was, hey, as a woman, as part of our community, it's also your responsibility to be part of the community and put yourself out there, right? I mean, we have women practicing Filipino martial arts, but they're not putting their videos out there. They're not putting their training out there to be seen. And of course, I understand that it's their right to choose, but as part of the community and as a woman too, if you want more recognition and if you want women to be part of Filipino martial arts, you need to be an inspiration, right? You need to well, continue your training, of course, continue that training, and be and get others to be inspired through providing your journey to them, like letting them see your journey too. I like that. So that kind of, I learned something today. That's kind of solves.
That also adds to that, to our rank conversation as well. My Hapkido organization has a different system when you hit black belt to go through Dan ranks or degrees of black belt, and it's as you get, if you're getting up in age, which you have to be to get fourth or fifth degree, we have other things you can do to get the rank, and there is one of that is service to the community. What have you done to help build Hapkido, Kali, things like, and that can count towards, we do it in points. Like if you own a school, you get certain points. If you taught a seminar, a certain amount of points, and you have to have the number of points to get the next rank, plus the time limit, time kind of like between ranks. And so throw it in there if that's a good way for us to do it. Yes, you have to kind of do something if you want to be at this level.
Last question, guys. In your opinion, what is the future outlook for women in Filipino martial arts, and how do you envision their role and contributions evolving within the art? Any takers?
I'll go first.
Okay, Paul.
I'll go first because mine will be short.
All right.
It's the same as it's almost the same as my last answer is. I think it would be tremendously arrogant of me to try to tell you what the future is for women in martial arts. I'd love a woman to tell me. I'd love a very large group of women to tell me, like, and how can I be a part of that journey? I want to be an ally. I want to be there. I want to be on that journey. But it's not for me to say. I think we have done enough in history of telling women what to do and how they should act and what they should do. Let's take a seat and let's listen a little bit. But I think that the media is a good thing. As much as we might not like big corporations and things like that, that's a whole nother discussion. But it gives representation, and that we know from history that that does work. Positive representation on the screen will get that next generation to be more active, I think. And that's my soapbox.
I like that. Like a group of women telling you what to do.
Sounds great.
Sure. Let's try that. All right. Takers, Royce, Lamont.
As much as I hate to admit it, but with the advent of social media, there's more and more people. There are a lot of people showing their art and technique, and they're kickboxing, they're striking, they're this, they're that, they're taekwondo, they're karate, they're aikido, they're kempo, they're arnis, eskrima. It's more and more and more and more and more. And with that creates exposure, and other females looking for that will find other females. It's still new, but it's taking traction. It's building, right? Idealistically, it looks like it's going to keep snowballing. We can only hope. In the Philippines, you have more Filipinos doing it there, but here in the United States, it's a different story.
My daughter, she's 15. She's being taught Filipino martial arts in school. That's part of her regular curriculum. That's her physical education class. So it's not it's not combat, but it's just she gets the basics. So that introduces the art to them. And then if they want to go on and continue their training, there are a lot of schools that they can go to. So I was so excited when I learned that my daughter is actually, oh, you're being taught FMA in school? That's great. It should be. I mean, it should be because it's our national sports and national martial arts too. Okay, Lamont.
Yeah, the cynical part of me is if we look at least for the United States, you look at the percentage of women in martial arts, all martial arts, right?
Mhm.
Like, or at least I think they looked up a survey. It was like 25% of martial arts instructors are women. Like that holds true across all the martial arts. If I go back and I look at my own personal attendance, which I did, it's about 25%, right? It's and I don't know that culturally you can force a shift, right? There has to be both exposure and an interest to do it. All the kids in the Philippines are getting exposed to arnis in schools. Is that driving a growth of arnis or Kali or Eskrima schools in the Philippines? Or are they like, oh, that was school and I'm done, right? Like, So the cynical part of me is, uh, I don't know that I can do anything about it, except, as kind of said, allow the women to promote themselves, to let them recruit their own people into the art, because them seeing another guy doing doesn't help anything, right?
Yeah.
That's already the majority of what's going on. And so if change is going to happen, it has to be women led, of course, because it can't be the industry standard. It can't be what we've done for however many years martial arts has been taught. So it's almost an impact. It's a challenge for those women practitioners out there to what's the saying? Be the change you want to see. Like, you need to cause the change, and I hope it happens. Unfortunately, I don't know that I can make it happen. Right? It needs to be hopefully one of my students. So
No, I disagree. I think that you are all, by being here right now, you're already making things happen. So thank you. We really appreciate you, all of you. Paul, Royce, Lamont, thank you so much. This has been a wonderful conversation, a very intimate one, which I really like. And us talking about women and you giving us your perspective too. This is great and wonderful. And thank you for coming to the show. Thank you for giving your insights on this side of the plate. Before I let you go, let me ask if do you need to promote anything? Paul, let's start with you.
June 29th, I'm doing an online seminar. I've just certified my first instructors in cognitive Kali, and we're working on starting the next program. So I'm doing some more seminars for that. So June 29th, I'll be doing it on the X pattern, which is one of my fundamental drills for cognitive Kali. There's two other dates that I should know, right? I should know when the other seminars are. But if you go to cognitivekali.com, you'll find out, because I definitely wrote them on there. And then I will be doing a live in-person seminar on July 22nd in the UK in High Wycombe. I'm going home, first time since COVID, taking my son home and being able to reconnect with my old instructor from when I was 15 years old, and he hosts me when I'm there. So that's going to be both in a sense of method, cognitive Kali, and an instructor assessment intensive, if the folks, I've got some folks over there want to get that down and out of the way. And then my online program, instructor program, will start sometime September, October.
Like, subscribe, and check out our videos on Nomad Kali's YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. I'm still working on that one. At sign Nomad KACF, short for Nomad Kali and Combat Fitness. And so we are hosting Tuan Ramel Tortel on July 8th and 9th here at Nomad Kali. It's going to be a hybrid seminar, so it's going to be live here, as well as an option for Zoom in November, actually. Again, another hybrid seminar. We're all presenting material to help raise money for a 503c charity called Creations for Cure.
Beginning of October, date isn't set yet. It's probably going to be the second weekend in October. The Warrior Teapon is a open sparring day, co-hosted by Tuan Belton and myself. It's in Bellevue, Washington. It's $10 a head. Come in and fight until you don't want to fight anymore. We get FMA people, HEMA guys, get together, just, fight against strangers, get out of your backyard, fight against people you're not used to fighting, and have fun. Usually we go out and have some food afterwards. It's a good time. So.
Yeah, good times.
Oh, and
good
it's only in
times.
person. You can't do this online. You have to hit people in person. So thank you.
Yeah. And we need to eat together too. So I'm excited.
Absolutely.
All right. Again, thank you so much for coming to our show. Thank you, Paul, Royce, and Lamont. This has been Marya Dela Torre at this side of the blade. So what I hear from you is it's all about training and continuing the women's martial arts journey, and of course to find inspiration and to be able to get that inspiration by the other women too, promoting themselves so that they can be recognized, and because of that they will inspire people, they will inspire women. I mean, it doesn't need to be women. You, as a woman, we can inspire both men and women, right? Okay, so I think that the important thing that we discussed here today was that as a woman, that's also our responsibility to the community to promote ourselves out there. Okay, so ultimately, this episode, we are hoping we can shed the light on what you guys, the instructors, look for in a progressive student, which we can learn from as a women. And everyone wants to advance and do better, and you have given all of that to us. You've given that knowledge to us today, and we would like to really thank you. So this has been FMA Connects, this side of the blade, and I'm Marya Dela Torre, your host, signing off. Bye. Yay.